This is episode 199 of the Super League Pod. This is the one where the hosts think our game might have got something right, but the listeners aren't so sure. Either way, we can all agree that a Chairman Royal Rumble live stream would boost our league app subscriptions no end. And we have your fan reviews, stats and scores from across the world of rugby league. Get strapped in extra tight for this one. It's SLP time. Welcome along, listeners, to episode 199 of the Super League Pod. I'm your regular host, Mark, and I'm delighted that I'm joined this week again by the most regular of the co-hosts, Tim G. How are you doing, Tim G?
Yeah, not too bad. Yeah, very well. Just doing it slightly differently this week. Rather than being in my flat in Swindon, I'm actually in my parents' house in Surrey. So this will probably be the most southerly episode of the Super League Pod we've ever had.
Definitely. Well, I don't know. We had Rich on, didn't we, from Sydney?
Yeah,
that's pretty south of London.
That is pretty south.
Sorry. Good stuff. So it's a couple of weeks since you were last on. How have you been since you were last on? Anything interesting to report?
So we had a Coventry game on last week. So we played North Wales. So did that, and I also jumped on another podcast,
yes.
Sort of lending myself out. So the call went up from the boys at the Bare Necessities, said that they weren't going to be at the game. So I took on the duties and ended up bringing my friends, like being back in local radio days all over again. So going around interviewing people and then even answering the Ask Mr. G questions.
Yeah, I feel like you volunteered for that rather than being asked to do that part.
Well, you know, once you're in for it, you may as well go for it. And we did well, got quite a few questions in, so it was a bumper week. And then even got the views of some of the younger fans of Coventry, which I think a lot of people enjoyed.
Yeah, if anyone hasn't listened to that, it's the Bare Necessities podcast. We've spoke about it before on the show, and obviously get your ears around Tim's episode in particular. That was from last week. I'm sure this week's episode will be interesting because the Bears ran it a close thing up in Cumbria, so we'll get to that when we talk about very interesting situation in League One later in the show. What we're going to be talking about, Tim, today, the league structure obviously being confirmed last week for 2019. That's going to dominate today's show. I have a feeling we do have some other news to cover, but just cover it and that's it, I think. We've got fan reviews from throughout the Super 8's fixtures, and we'll talk about an exciting run in to League One's promotion race, like I just hinted on. But before we get into some of the other more structured stuff that we've got written down in front of us, you were involved this weekend in London and the South East. Do you want to talk us through how your rep side got on?
Yep, so it's London South East. So there's another representative campaign. So last year it was done as the Harry Jepson Trophy. So they switched the Harry Jepson Trophy from being a club competition to being a regional competition. This year they've done it as a separate regional on top of the Harry Jepson Trophy. So that was won by the All Golds, the reformed All Golds down in Gloucestershire. So they won that game. And then we've formed up the London and South East side. This year I've ended up as manager, which is... I was assistant manager last year, so this year it's my turn to get all the texts, emails, phone calls, all sorts. And
make sure everyone can get to the game and deal with the selection, deal with the people that are selected and the people that you aren't selecting and that sort of stuff. I'm sure it's quite a headache.
It is, yeah. It's trying to get a balance of players from across the region. We've got such a big and vibrant competition. We've also got a lot of people that want to get involved, so it's trying to keep everybody as happy. Equally, you get free games. So last year we used 41 players.
Wow.
So across 3 games. Well, exactly. It's a combination of availability and all sorts of things because it isn't a late competition in the season. A lot of people have made plans because it was confirmed again this year quite late in the day. So
people might be playing other sports by that stage as well, I suppose.
Yeah, or sort of the Australian and New Zealand boys who come over, they they go off on holiday and go travelling after the season finishes. So that's fair enough for them. But yeah, we had a trial 3 weeks ago that was very good, very well attended, and as a result of that and the various other nominations that were made and all the things taken into consideration, we had our first game yesterday. That was down at Wasps in Acton, and we came out 50-10 winners. So we did brilliantly.
Wow. That was against the
East of England. So we've played them 3 times now. So we played them twice last year in one of the regular round games and the final last year, winning 56-12 and 56-18 last year, and then 50-10 yesterday. So that was brilliant. A very changed side from one year to the next. I think we had probably about only 5 players involved that were involved in last year's last game. So it's quite a big turnover.
Yeah.
Such is the way you expect a fair amount, but it was a really good game, and it was a lot closer actually than that scoreline suggests. Certainly in the second half we had sort of 2 flurries of tries which really did well, and it was great to be involved and good fun.
Were there any players that stood out from your side yesterday?
Yeah, there was a few. We obviously had Byron Crichton, who's an Australian hooker who in all reality should be sort of probably about League One standard, but for various reasons isn't playing at that level. But he was absolutely electric, really sort of gaining meat off the ruck, and really you could tell he was being a bit of a thorn in the side of the defence, and he was putting himself about in defence as well. We also had because we had a late couple of changes we had to make. We had a withdrawal with one guy who'd got knocked out playing in a nines tournament.
Wow.
So over in the Budapest Nines. So he had to drop out, and we brought Eric Sims off the bench, brought him onto the wing, and shuffled round. And for someone who is a half or hooker really by trade, for someone who isn't a winger, did absolutely fantastic. So he did really well. It was really slippery, just getting away. And we scored 9 tries overall and spread those out throughout the team. So everybody chipped in. Todd Pute from the Chargers, he was our captain, and he was absolutely fantastic. We had Alan Bartlett, who plays at Hammersmith. He started off in the centre and then went to fullback when Teach Farrell had to come off, and he did really well. And to be honest, there wasn't anyone who didn't let themselves down, and everybody enjoyed it, had a good game, and there was a good spirit, and then retired to the Chatsworth and Acton afterwards, which was good fun. And had a nice couple of drinks there, and had some food. And some of the boys stayed on for a bit, but I headed off after that.
Good stuff. Well, after you left, I'm sure they misbehaved more, but didn't want to fall out of line too far in front of the boss, Tim? So you've got 2 games left in the series. Do you want to just remind the listeners, anyone especially listening who lives down south or is travelling down south over the next couple of weeks or so, where they can catch the other fixtures, Tim?
Yep, so we've got it's been called a regional carnival this weekend, and that's going to be down at Maidenhead Rugby Club. So that's just near Slough, not far from Heathrow. Quite a nice little ground there. We've played a couple of Oxford games down there, so it's a 4G surface and really good facility. So we'll be playing 2 games because they've got 3 sides that are interested, because the Southwest have had to pull out for travel commitments.
Okay.
They don't think they can get enough players, because they were supposed to play the West yesterday.
Yeah.
But they pulled out. They dropped out of that game, and they dropped out of this one as well, which is understandable in some respects, but it is frustrating in others as well. So we'll be playing two halves. So 40 minutes, one against the West side, who should be very good. They've also got some of those all golds lads, and they've probably been around as a representative side. They've probably been around the longest. They're probably the most together as a side, so that's going to be a real test for us. And then we'll be playing the East again in another half at the end of the day. So that's 3 o'clock and 4:40 kickoffs for that.
Good stuff.
And then the week after, we're doing a special fixture. It's not officially part of the programme, but we've arranged it ourselves. It'll be against the Wales Dragonhearts, which is the best of out the amateurs, similar setup, but for across the whole of Wales, because they're on tour to Serbia, and before they fly out, they're playing us, and then they're going off to Heathrow and flying out the next day.
Excellent. Where will people be able to catch that one?
So that'll be Perth Road, which is opposite London Scholars. So it's the grass pitch opposite London Scholars ground.
Excellent. Okay, I'm sure there'll be people that are listening that'll be interested in checking those events out. One other point to touch on about rugby league down south, I suppose. The old RLDS hashtag.
I'm still using it. I'm still on it.
Yeah, even if what's it? What was it? I can't even remember.
Ian Ramsdale.
Ian, that's it. Whatever happened to him? He got too involved in putting on plays and forgot about rugby league.
He moved down to somewhere in the middle of Hampshire.
Yeah.
And he now works on BBC Solent, I think
That's
is.
Correct.
I occasionally see him pop up and do things down there.
But you hinted towards a sponsorship opportunity for SLP in the Sussex Merlins.
Yes, so it's my old amateur club, Sussex Merlins, and their juniors. They say last year the amateur side, the open age side, had to close because there wasn't enough interest. They just weren't getting enough bodies down that were going to take it on. So they made the decision as a club to pull away from that and to rebuild from the bottom up. So therefore they've come under 7s, under 8s and under 9s last year, and they'll be carrying that on into this year. And as part of that, the Mighty Merlins Tots, they're called, or the Merlins Juniors, they are looking for a sponsor for their shirt and training kit. So I thought, well, why not expand our reach as a podcast and get another logo on another sleeve or another shirt and see where we go from there.
So kind of we want to get involved in that, don't we? So what this is a bit of a plea is out there to anyone who hasn't made donations so far to the show but enjoys listening and wants to throw, even if it's just a quid or two, into the pot to help us be able to roll out a bit more sponsorship there. PayPal.me/Super League Pod is where you can go. Any donations that we're going to get over the next few weeks will all go towards this sponsoring out to junior clubs around the country. Effectively, we do tell the clubs not to let the kids listen to the show in too much detail, but we do want to support the kids in the amateur game.
Yeah, and the coaches down there do a fantastic job with them. Also, I know Kieran very well from when I was down there, and he's absolutely fantastic coach. Really, really keen, really into it. Puts a lot of time and effort in himself. Really does take that on, and they did very well. They took them up, some kids up to Wembley, so they played in the tournament before the Wembley game.
Fantastic.
For the Challenge Cup, so they all seemed to enjoy themselves there, and they were part of the pitch parade. So they had a little pink and blue flag that they were waving around, and really proud to see them all part of that, and be great to get behind them.
Good stuff. Okay, next week, Tim, I'm really excited. It's episode 200 next week. People might have worked that out themselves when I said episode 199 at the top. So, if people want to listen all the way to the end of the show and get a little tease into what we're cooking up for you next week for the special milestone. In fact, why don't I just say now as well? So, I don't want to give too much away. We're going to do something different in the way the show's going to be hosted next week. It's not going to be a video show before people start asking about that.
Why do people really want a video? I don't understand the clamour for it.
Well, I know.
Who knows?
I don't know. We've worked so well as a podcast for 199 episodes. Don't want to ruin that progress we've made by changing things up too much, but there will be something a little bit different about next week's show, so I do want people to check in and listen to it. We're also going to feature an interview that I conducted this week, to pull back the curtain a little bit, with one of the let's say more celebrated members of the wider SLP family. That will be part of next week's show as well, so I'm really excited to share that with everyone. One thing that one of our listeners, one of our co-hosts from earlier in the year, got in touch about and said, what about this as a talking point for episode 200, because we are a show for fans, all sorts of fans of rugby league. Rich Langley got in touch to broach the subject. It stirs up debate all the time on fan chat forums. Basically, if you disagree with someone and they've not been to watch a game, this is where the conversation always goes. I feel like doesn't necessarily get a satisfactory outcome, so what I'm hoping is the SLP community can get us to a satisfactory outcome. Because Rich Langley emailed in to say, is there a difference between a supporter and a fan, in brackets fanatic? Is someone who follows a team home and away buys all the shirts and arranges their life around matches, etc., a fan, in inverted commas, and then someone who just goes as and when they are able to, and maybe buys a shirt, maybe buys some merchandise, maybe doesn't. They're just a supporter, in inverted commas. Are there levels of fandom or support which make some true fans and others just